We live in a world where everything rushes us. Commitments, demands, news, constant stimuli. Hours race by, thoughts collide, feelings fluctuate, and deep down, the human heart desperately yearns for one thing: peace. But not a superficial, fragile peace that depends on external circumstances. The human heart desires a solid, stable, deeply rooted peace, one that remains even when everything is falling apart. Pope Leo XIV, with his life of prayer, silence, and spiritual discernment, has been a beacon for all who seek this inner peace. He doesn't point to easy formulas, but to profound truths. He offers no shortcuts, but a clear path, based on faith, humility, and the presence of God. In this video, we will explore 10 spiritual secrets for inner peace from Pope Leo XIV, words that not only touch, but transform. If you feel that you need to rediscover peace, strengthen your soul, or simply breathe more lightly in the face of life, stay with me until the end. Take the opportunity to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with those who also need encouragement for their hearts. Let's begin. Secret 1. Inner peace begins in silence. Pope Leo XIV teaches that the first step to rediscovering peace is to silence the noise of the world, to silence the rush, to silence the inner voices that shout guilt, anxiety, comparison. He affirms that silence is not absent, but presence. In silence, God speaks, and those who do not allow themselves to be silent will hardly be able to hear the voice that consoles, guides, and calms. Leo XIV observes that many disturbances of the soul come from constant distraction. We are fed by an avalanche of content, opinions, and conflicts that prevent us from diving into what is essential. Therefore, he invites us to reclaim daily moments of recollection, closing our eyes, quieting our mouths, lowering our souls, allowing ourselves to be inhabited by the presence of the Lord. The Pope teaches that silence is fruitful. It is not empty. In it, the Holy Spirit whispers. In it, wounds begin to heal. And he adds, there are storms that cease, not because the world has changed, but because the soul has learned to be silent before God. This secret invites us to ask, have I cultivated silence in my day? Or am I constantly distracted, agitated, reacting to everything without time to reflect? Silence is not a luxury, it is nourishment, and without it, the soul becomes confused, distressed, disordered. The Pope concludes, the soul that silences finds God, and whoever finds God rediscovers peace. Secret 2. Inner peace is born from absolute trust in God. Pope Leo XIV's second secret for inner peace is not trust. Just any trust, a total, radical trust, almost scandalous in the eyes of the world. He affirms that the soul only finds peace when it learns to place everything in God's hands: plans, pains, uncertainties, fears, and waiting periods. The Pope teaches that the root of many anxieties is the desire to control. We want to guarantee the future, understand all paths, solve everything with our own strength. But this illusion of control generates frustration, exhaustion, and despair. Leo XIV firmly states, peace is not in knowing everything, it is in knowing whom to trust. And he invites us to repeat daily, as an act of faith, Jesus, I trust in you. Even without understanding, even without seeing. He observes that the most serene saints were not those who had easy lives, but those who blindly trusted in divine providence. And that this trust is not passivity, but an active surrender, like a child who sleeps in the arms of the Father, even when everything around seems threatening. This secret challenges us. Do I trust God even when everything seems dark? Or do I only trust when things turn out as I expect? Do I surrender? Or do I merely repeat words of surrender? Do I rest in God? Or do I continue trying to solve everything on my own? The Pope concludes, the soul that fully trusts lives in peace, even when the world crumbles around it. These first two secrets, silence and trust, reveal the foundation of true inner peace. It's not about techniques or emotional tricks. It's about a profound change in posture toward life and toward God. In silence, the soul listens. In trust, the soul rests. Pope Leo XIV teaches us that peace is not found in favorable circumstances, but in a living relationship with the Lord. It is He who gives peace, not as the world gives, fragile, unstable, conditional, but as only He can give, firm, discreet, lasting. As we reflect on these words, we are invited to take the first steps in this direction, silent, and allow the grace of God to begin doing in us what we could never accomplish alone. Because, as Pope Leo XIV says, peace is not a place to reach. It is a gift received when the heart surrenders. Inner peace is neither a quick achievement nor a permanent state that, once attained, is never lost. It is a path, a discipline of the spirit, a constant exercise of conversion. Pope Leo XIV teaches us that this peace is cultivated in the intimate depths and is born from daily decision to quiet ourselves, to trust, to forgive, to welcome. In the first two secrets, we saw the importance of silence and trust. Now, we continue with two equally decisive pillars for those who desire to live with serenity and depth, forgiveness and humility. Secret 3. Inner peace flourishes where there is forgiveness. Pope Leo XIV states clearly, there is no inner peace without forgiveness. The soul that harbors resentment, hurt, or bitterness finds no rest. It may appear serene, but inside it remains agitated, wounded, tense. He teaches that forgiving is not forgetting, nor justifying another's wrong. Forgiving is freeing oneself from the weight of the offense. It is releasing the cord that binds us to the past. It is refusing to continue feeding the pain with repetitive thoughts. Leo XIII warns that many Christians pray, attend the sacraments, do good works, but remain restless because they carry unhealed wounds. And these wounds, when not healed with the balm of forgiveness, become a source of spiritual unrest. The Pope proposes a simple yet profound exercise. In the face of a hurt, do not feed thoughts of revenge, but repeat inwardly, Lord, I cannot do this alone. Give me the grace to forgive. He recalls that forgiveness is a process, sometimes slow, sometimes difficult, but always possible with God's grace, and that the first to be liberated by forgiveness is not the offender, but the one who was offended. This lesson provokes us. Is there someone who still occupies a place of pain in my heart? Are there situations I continue to ruminate in silence, which prevent me from being at peace with myself and with God? The Pope is firm. Those who do not forgive remain chained to the past, but those who forgive, even while weeping, make space for peace to flourish. Secret 4. Inner peace dwells where there is true humility. The fourth secret that Pope Leo XIV reveals to us is humility as a path to peace. He affirms that the root of many anxieties is pride. We want to be recognized, understood, admired, obeyed, and when this doesn't happen, the soul becomes agitated, complains, revolts, but the humble soul rests, because it no longer needs to prove anything, no longer demands everything, no longer places itself at the center. The Pope teaches that true humility is not humiliation. It is a serene recognition of one's own smallness. It is knowing that we are not what we accomplish, nor what others think of us. We are, above all, children of God, and that is enough. He observes that the humble have peace because they accept themselves as they are, with their limitations, their rhythms, their failures. And they also accept others with more patience because they don't expect perfection from them. Leo XIV recalls that the most serene saints were also the most humble. Saint Thérèse of Lisieux said, "Humility is truth." And when we live in truth, about ourselves, about others, about God, everything becomes ordered within us. This secret questions us, where is my restlessness rooted? In wounded pride? In vanity disguised as zeal? Have I lived seeking applause? Or in the freedom of being who God has called me to be? The Pope concludes with gentleness. The humble have peace because they do not live by human expectation, but by the confidence that everything comes from God. These two secrets, forgiveness and humility, are keys that liberate the heart. They free us from the prison of the past and the tyranny of the ego. They free us from comparison, from resentment, from self-punishment. Peace, teaches Pope Leo XIV, is not the fruit of a life without conflict. It is the fruit of a reconciled soul, with God, with others, and with itself. As we reflect on these truths, We are called to let go of what weighs us down, to embrace our inner truth with humility, and to walk with greater lightness. Because, as the Pope says, whoever forgives, rests. Whoever is humble, breathes. And whoever breathes in God has already begun to live true peace. Inner peace, as Pope Leo XIV shows us, is a state of the soul that does not depend on the absence of difficulties, but on the presence of God. It is not built with external guarantees, but with deep roots that connect the heart to heaven. We have already seen that silence, trust, forgiveness, and humility open space for this peace. Now, we delve even deeper into this path with two secrets that touch on how we deal with our choices and with time. Two places where the soul becomes agitated when it doesn't learn to orient itself by divine light. Secret 5. Inner peace grows when living in the present moment. Pope Leo XIV frequently insists, the soul that lives in the past or the future loses today, and today is the only place where God acts. He observes that many anxieties come from wounded memory or anxious imagination. We become trapped in regrets about the past, or we consume ourselves with worries about the future. And in this constant movement of projection and return, we forget the gift that is the present moment. The Pope teaches that inner peace can only be cultivated in the concrete reality of the present moment. It is here, in this instant, with the resources we have and the limitations we carry, that God visits us, speaks, consoles, and transforms. Leo XIV invites us to pray with simplicity. Lord, help me to live well in this moment, just this one, and to transform this instant into a place of offering, of attention, of presence. Because divine grace does not operate in dreams or memories, it pours forth in the now. He warns, nostalgia paralyzes, and anxiety diverts us from our mission. But those who live in the present, with attention and openness, walk with peace, even in tribulation. This lesson calls us to reflect. How have I lived my time? Trapped in what has already passed, or anxious about what has not yet come? Have I managed to surrender myself entirely to the present moment, to the conversation with someone, to prayer, to the simple task of each day? The Pope summarizes with depth. Today is the altar where God desires to be worshipped. Whoever lives in the present lives in eternity. Secret 6. Inner peace is sustained by coherence of life. Another essential secret from Pope Leo XIV is coherence. He affirms that the soul loses peace when it lives in contradiction with the values it recognizes as true. Many Christians are distressed not by external trial, but because they live divided internally, desiring good, but practicing the opposite, loving truth, but flirting with lies, seeking light, but hiding areas of life in shadow. The Pope teaches that peace is born from harmony between what we believe, what we say, and what we do. It's not about perfection, but sincerity. The soul that tries to walk with two truths at the same time, God's and the world's, ends up living in continuous tension, which prevents it from resting. He recalls the words of the Lord, "Let your yes be yes, and your no be no." Peace dwells in the soul that is whole, that seeks to live without a double heart, without moral duplicity, without disguises. Leo XIV invites us to examine our conscience not only based on major sins, but on the small inconsistencies that, over time, rob us of joy and distance us from God's presence. He insists, remorse steals peace, but simple, faithful, discreet rectitude nourishes it in silence. Lord, this lesson provokes us. Am I being coherent between what I believe and what I live? Have I maintained fidelity in details, even when no one is watching? Or am I carrying within myself a division that robs me of serenity? The Pope concludes with wisdom. Peace is the prize of the whole, and wholeness is the fruit of daily fidelity. These two secrets, living in the present and cultivating coherence, touch on concrete realities that we all face. How many times we torment ourselves for not being able to change the past or anticipate the future. How many times we lose peace because, deep down, we know we are betraying the values of the gospel in our daily choices. Inner peace is not built with theories. It is born from the daily decision to live with presence, integrity, and docility to God's will. Pope Leo XIV teaches us that true serenity is a consequence of lived truth. It is not enough to know the good. We must choose it. It is not enough to want to be holy. We must walk, step by step, with courage and humility. Because, as he says, the soul that lives in the present and walks in truth becomes a silent mirror of God's peace. Inner peace is not a privilege for the few, but a promise made by Christ to all who trust, forgive, live the truth, and remain with an open heart. It is a gift that flourishes in the soul that surrendered. Pope Leo XIV has revealed with clarity and depth that this gift is not outside of us, but waits to be awakened by daily choices. After learning about silence, trust, forgiveness, humility, presence, and coherence, we now move on to two secrets that strengthen the soul: gratitude and silent prayer. Secret 7. Inner peace is strengthened by gratitude. Pope Leo XIV insists that an ungrateful soul will never be fully serene. He observes that ingratitude is an invisible root of many anxieties. When we fail to recognize the blessings we receive, small or great, we begin to feed murmurs, demands, comparison, and peace dissipates. The Pope teaches that gratitude is an elevated form of prayer. When we give thanks, even in suffering, we free ourselves from the narrow vision that only sees lacks and pain, and we open our hearts to perceive God's presence even in what we do not understand. He proposes a simple exercise. Before sleeping, thank God for 3 concrete things from the day. Even if it was a difficult day, give thanks for what was possible. This daily practice educates our vision. Gradually, the soul begins to recognize grace hidden in detail, in the bread that nourishes, in the embrace that consoles, in the cross that sanctifies. Leo XIV affirms, "The grateful soul has peace because it knows that everything is a gift, and where everything is a gift, there is no room for revolt." He also recalls that gratitude removes us from the illusion of control and reconciles us with divine providence. Those who give thanks understand that not everything needs to be perfect to be good, and that even God's delays have their reason. This lesson invites us to look within. Have I been grateful for what I have, or do I live in constant demand for what is lacking? Have I cultivated praise in small things, or have I become blind to daily graces? The Pope concludes with clarity. Whoever cultivates gratitude digs deep wells of peace within the soul. Secret 8. Inner peace springs from the silent encounter with God. Pope Leo XIV insists that true peace does not come from words, readings, or even religious action, but from personal encounter with God, especially in the silence of prayer. He affirms that it is there, in the secret place of the heart, where no one sees, that the soul finds rest. Silent prayer is not absence of words. It is present. It is being with God without the anxiety of saying much. It is allowing the Spirit to speak within. The Pope says, sometimes the soul needs only to sit before the Lord, look at Him, breathe, and remain. Leo XIV recalls that this was the type of prayer that sustained the saints in their trials. Simple, faithful, silent prayer. Not based on feelings, but on decision. Not done only when one feels like it, but lived as a necessary encounter. He warns that many live a Christian life that is outwardly correct, but do not know the deep rest that only intimacy with God can give. And he invites each believer to reserve, every day, a brief time, but a whole time, to simply be with the Lord. This silent prayer is medicine for the anxious mind, balm for the wounded heart, and fire for dormant faith. Even if it seems unproductive, even if it seems dark, it transforms the soul from the inside out. This lesson questions us. Have I sought prayer as a place of encounter, or merely as an obligation? Have I cultivated silence before God, or just hastily repeated formulas? Have I remained in His presence, like a child resting in the Father's lap? The Pope concludes with tenderness. The world agitates, prayer calm. Whoever remains with God finds, little by little, the peace that does not pass away. These two secrets, gratitude and silent prayer, are like roots that sustain the tree of inner peace. They do not remove life's storms, but they make us firm during them. They do not prevent tears, but they keep us from drowning in them. The peace that Pope Leo XIV presents to us is not theoretical. It is deeply lived. It is the peace he witnesses in his serene words, his discreet gesture, his unshakable faith. Because he himself learned, in prayer, in suffering, in service, that true peace does not come from what we have, but from who dwells within us. As we reflect on these secrets, we are invited to re-educate our vision and our routine, to give thanks more, to be silent more, to trust more. Because, as Leo XIV says, where there is gratitude and silence, God makes himself present, and where God is, nothing is lacking. Throughout this journey, we have been unveiling, one by one, the secrets that Pope Leo XIV transmits with such delicacy and firmness about inner peace. This is not a naive peace built on illusions or denying life's pains. It is a solid peace, deeply rooted in God, that grows in the soul as fruit of faith, coherence, silence, humility, and love. We now come to the last two secrets, two pillars that sustain the heart when everything else wavers: surrender to God's will and concrete charity. Secret 9. Inner peace is completed in surrender to God's will. Pope Leo XIII teaches that true peace arrives when the heart stops fighting against reality and begins to welcome it as part of God's mystery. He observes that many disturbances of the soul come from inner resistance to what we cannot change: a suffering, a loss, a waiting period, a closed door. The Pope affirms with gentleness and firmness, peace is not in changing everything, but in accepting with faith what God permits. This doesn't mean passivity, but active trust. It is what Jesus lived in Gethsemane. Father, if possible, take this cup from me, but not my will, but yours be done. Leo XIV explains that surrender to God's will is the most profound act of freedom, because it is in this act that we stop fighting against life and begin to live it with meaning, even when it hurts. He invites each Christian to make the prayer of surrender a daily habit. Lord, may what you will be done in me, as you will it, when you will it. This secret provokes us to look within. What have I been fighting against uselessly? What situations have I resisted accepting with humility? Have I tried to force my own ways, or have I sought to trust in God's ways? The Pope concludes, the soul that surrenders to God's will does not lose control. It returns control to whom it should never have taken it from. Secret 10. Inner peace bears fruit in lived charity. The last secret that Pope Leo XIV reveals to us is, perhaps, the most forgotten. True peace is not preserved in itself. It multiplies in love for others. He affirms that concrete, discreet, daily charity is a profound source of serenity. The Pope teaches that the restless soul often closes in on itself, feeding its pains, its fears, its questions. But the soul that goes out of itself to serve, console, visit, welcome, experiences a peace that no meditation alone can give. Leo XIV affirms, charity is the movement that oxygenates the soul. Whoever loves breathes with lightness. He recalls that Christ healed hearts not only with words, but with gestures, touching, listening, drawing near. And he invites each Christian to do the same, even if in simple ways. A smile, a listening ear, a silent help, a prayer for someone forgotten. Charity takes us out of spiritual isolation and puts us in tune with the heart of God, which is total gift. This secret questions us. Has my search for peace been selfish? Have I closed myself too much within myself? Have I lived love as a mission, or merely as an ideal? The Pope concludes with firmness and gentleness. The most lasting peace is that which is born from a heart that has emptied itself to love. These last two secrets, surrender and charity, close this path with a golden key, because inner peace is not the destination of an isolated retreat, but the mature fruit of a life reconciled with God, with others, and with itself. Peace is rooted in surrender, and it flourishes in love. Pope Leo XIV does not offer us methods, but authentic spiritual life. He shows us that inner peace is accessible to all who dare to live faith with simplicity, depth, and truth. Throughout this journey, we have seen that inner peace is born from silence, which reconnects us with God, from trust, which frees us from control, from forgiveness, which heals the past, from humility, which returns us to truth, from present, which anchors us in the now, from coherence, which aligns what we are with what we believe, from gratitude, which transforms our vision, from prayer, which sustains us from within, from surrender, which pacifies us, and from love, which sanctifies us. This is the map of true peace. Not a peace that ignores struggles, but that survives them. Not a peace without tears, but one that learns to transform each tear into a source of mercy. And as Pope Leo XIV says, with his gaze full of tenderness and depth, inner peace is not a prize for the strong, but a gift for those who trust. It is not the fruit of effort, but of surrender, and it begins when we stop fighting with God and begin to rest in Him. May you choose this path today, to silence, to trust, to forgive, to give thanks, to pray, to surrender, and above all, to love. Because true peace is not something to be conquered. It is someone to be encountered, and this someone has a name: Jesus Christ.